Hello, you are listening to the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter so you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. Now, I've got a special guest today for you, and it's me, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer. I wanted to talk to you today about understanding karma. Now, karma, first of all, let's talk about what is karma. Now, I grew up in the Christian tradition, and in the Christian tradition, we have something called the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, as a medical intuitive healer and someone with, at this point, 31 years experience in natural healing, someone who reads energy, I always feel that the most selfish thing that I can ever do is to be kind, generous, and thoughtful to everyone around me to the best of my personal ability. Now, karma, in my view, is like gravity. I don't have to understand gravity. Even before I've ever heard of physics, gravity worked. So whether or not you understand gravity, whether or not you understand karma, it still works. So a simple way to understand karma is that whatever you put out is what comes back to you. Now, my understanding, such it is as it is, not that I'm right, but my understanding is that many of us as souls have lived not only in this lifetime, but in many lifetimes before. And so karma can come to us and we can experience karma in many ways. So first of all, karma is like gravity. It doesn't matter whether we understand it or not, it's going to come back to us. And when we put out kindness, we receive kindness. When we put out generosity, if we practice being good receivers, we receive generosity. When we put out thoughtfulness, that's what we receive back. And again, whatever energy you put out is the energy that you're receiving. So if you are not receiving good energy at any point in time, a good thing to do to ask yourself is, what kind of energy am I sharing with the world? And how can I clean up my personal energy so that what I am putting out is love and light? So when you put out love and light to others, that is in general what you will put back and receive back. So what is karma? Karma is a law of the spiritual universe. You don't have to understand it. And it's basically the principle that whatever you put out into the universe is what comes back to you. Now, how do I work with karma? So there's basically two ways that I work with karma. So we talked about what is karma, and then I'm going to be talking with you about how I work with karma. So when in my work as a medical intuitive healer, basically there's two things that I do. I do medical intuitive readings and soul readings with clients all over the world. And also I do healing work to resolve issues. And sometimes I'll do medical intuitive reading to identify the issues, and then we clear them in follow-up healings. So when I'm doing my medical intuitive reading, I read what I call the 5 levels of your being: the physical body, the energetic body, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. And part of reading your soul, which I talked about at length in my 10th book, Reading the Soul, is about really understanding and helping you to understand what karma it is that you are here to heal and clear in this lifetime. So sometimes we may be going through a really difficult time in our lives. If you're listening to this broadcast and you're going through a hard time, my heart goes out to you, and I'm hoping that whatever it is that I say to you today will help to enlighten the experience that you're going through and maybe give you some perspective on what's going on. And so Dr. David Hawkins, who was the author of Power versus Force and many other books, he was an enlightened person. He is now deceased. And he talked about how this world is a world of maximum karmic opportunity. So what does it mean? What does it mean to live in a world of maximum karmic possibility? So you live in a world of maximum karmic opportunity. And what that actually means is that in this lifetime, you have an opportunity to clean up a lot of the karma that you have personally brought forward from this and other lifetimes, and also possibly karma that maybe you are carrying through from your ancestry, right? So when you look at human history and you look at human beings and all that human beings have been through, the wars, the starvation, the slavery, the abuse of all kinds, the thievery, all the mistakes that human beings have made over the years. And if you think about the word sin, another word for sin is a mistake, right? So when we look back with compassion, so let's take, for example, the topic of slavery. Slavery is widely understood at this time in this century to be understood as evil. In other centuries, if you were a slave, then you were viewed as property and somebody might have taken care of you. And slavery was a big part of human history through many centuries. So your ancestry could have carried forward this karma of slavery, either of being a slave or having enslaved or sold other human beings, and you could be carrying that energy forward. All right. So when we live in a world of maximum karmic opportunity, you have an opportunity at the soul level to clear up mistakes that you have made and mistakes that perhaps your ancestors have made, and to be a beacon of light and love in your lifetime. So I do medical intuitive readings, and when I do these medical intuitive readings, I look at what kinds of karma that you may be processing or working with in this lifetime. And in this discussion, I'm going to be talking about kinds of karma. And then when I do healing work, I also do what I call karmic clearings. So what is a karmic clearing? So when I do a karmic clearing, first of all, I call in higher spiritual beings. So many of us are familiar with God's source. We've heard of Jesus's, we've heard of the Buddha, we've heard of some of the enlightened ones. The lords of karma are basically spiritual beings who are in charge of karma. So if you think about the court system, so if you went to a court, there would be a judge, and a judge would make a final decision on your court case, right? And you'd have a lawyer who would represent you, or maybe you represent yourself, and there would be opposing counsel who would, talk about the other side. So another good way to think about the lords of karma is that they're spiritual judges, and they are in charge of karma. So they, when we go to them for appeal, we can ask them for help to release karma that we may be carrying forward. So when I do a karmic clearing, the first thing I do is I ask that the lords of karma be present with us. And then I ask for permission from the lords of karma to address or clear the karmic pattern that you're healing. All right. And sometimes we receive a yes, and sometimes we receive a no. If you want to clear karma and you receive a no, it may be because you need to do other deep spiritual work before you are ready in order to release that pattern. So when the Lords of Karma give me permission, then what I do is I look at where you're carrying this karma on 4 levels. So the first level so there's basically 4 levels of karma. And the first level is on the mental level. So when you're carrying karma on the mental level, that means that you have thoughts or beliefs that are holding you back. Maybe your thoughts or beliefs are getting in your way, and or there are emotions as a result of this karma that you've been carrying forward that are destructive to you or that are weighing your soul down. Now, the second level of karma is the DNA level, and this is quite interesting. I remember years ago, for example, working with a client, and she was a recovered alcoholic. So she had been clean for 7 years, which took tremendous amount of inner work. And, you know, she was already feeling better. In 7 years, you get a whole new body. So she was already much, much healthier, but she was still carrying the karma of alcoholism. And I remember talking to her about this pattern, and she said, it's like I swept that floor and I swept that floor. She'd worked so hard on releasing this pattern on another level, but it was in her DNA. So what is your DNA? It's your cellular blueprint. And you have to understand that 50% of your DNA comes from your mother, 50% of it comes from your father, and then 25% of your DNA comes from each of your grandparents. 12.5% goes back to your great-grandparents, and so on. And basically, you have to go back 7 generations of your ancestry to clear all the DNA. So I think when you go back 7 generations, you get to something like less than 1% of your DNA. So sometimes when we look at these patterns in ourselves, they didn't just start with you, they started with your ancestry. And this could be, say, karma of struggling with money. It could be a karma of addiction. It could be really literally any kind of karma could have come through your ancestry. So we want to have compassion, but again, realizing that you live in a world of maximum karmic opportunity, you as a soul have an opportunity in this lifetime to clear up some of these patterns that may have been started or originated with your ancestry. Now, the third level of karma is quite interesting to me. It's a karmic contract. Now, there's 3 kinds of karmic contracts. So the 3 kinds of karmic contracts could be, I'm here to help you, or you're here to help me, or we're here to help each other. So I'll give an example of this. So years ago, I had a client, and he was a gay gentleman, and his previous boyfriend, when they'd broken up, and it was a very difficult breakup. And when we looked at and did a healing with my client to complete his karma with this individual, they had a karmic contract. And so many of us in life, we want everything to be fair, whatever that is. But you have to understand that you may have soul contracts with other people. And again, I'm here to help you, or you're here to help me, or we're here to help each other. So sometimes at a soul level, you made an agreement before you were born to help another person. And in this lifetime, you weren't supposed to get anything out of it other than to know that you've helped this person. So my client, I helped him realize that at a soul level, he had made a soul agreement to help this other person. So that's the kind of karmic contract. So I help you identify if you do have a karmic contract with another individual, or it could be a family member or groups of people, and then what kind of karmic contract it was, And then we appeal and ask for help from the Lords of Karma to complete that contract. So just like if you have a legal agreement and you hire a lawyer, it's like, this isn't working for me anymore. You hire a lawyer, you go to a court or a judge, and you get to be complete with that karmic contract. All right. And the fourth kind of karma that you may be carrying forward may be all the way from the core of your soul. So when you have karma that goes all the way to the core of your soul, that means that you've been doing that pattern over and over and over again through many, many lifetimes, right? And so many of my clients are they're stuck in what I call the cult of difficult. So they're really stuck in a very difficult pattern. And it could be, let's say you're stuck in the cult of difficult and struggling with eating disorders, and you've done everything that you could think of to get over that. Well, you could have had many past lives where you were starving, right? I know I've had eating disorders twice in my life, once as a teenager and once in my early 30s. And when I looked at it, I had many past lives where I was literally starving. It was quite understandable to me when I looked at it from the core soul level that I'd had this pattern, right? So you could have had a pattern, or let's say you struggle with money. Well, you could have been struggling with money from the beginning of time, right? You had that pattern over and over and over again, and it's so embedded in you at the soul level that you need help releasing that karma from the beginning of your soul to time immemorial. So those are the 4 levels of karma. And with that, let's take a break and listen to a message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 best-selling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. And hang in there, I'll be right back. Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, here today to talk to you about understanding karma. So we talked about what is karma. We talked about how karma is like gravity. You don't have to understand it for it to work. We have talked about how I work with karma. When I identify karmas that you may be carrying in medical intuitive readings and soul readings, and how I do healing work with a karmic clearing, where I'm working with spiritual beings called the Lords of Karma and appealing to the Lords of Karma to help you be done with these patterns, all right? So let's talk about kinds of karma that you may be carrying, all right? So I'm going to start from myself and my personal experience. So anytime I have a particularly nasty or negative or unpleasant interaction with another individual, I do a karmic clearing for myself because I don't want to repeat that pattern, right? If you've gone through something extremely unpleasant, you don't want to keep doing that. And I don't want to keep doing that pattern with that person. And I also don't want to attract another individual and do that pattern with them, do the same pattern with another individual. So just realize that if you've gone through an extremely unpleasant experience with another individual, you want to sit with yourself and ask yourself, what is that deep pattern about this experience at the soul level. Why did I attract this experience? Why did I attract this other individual? And how can I release this karma so that I don't go about releasing that pattern again and again? So let's talk about kinds of karma that you may be carrying. So the first kind of karma that, and these are not going to be necessarily in any order. I'm just going to be talking about kinds of karma. So one kind of karma that you may be carrying is negative self-image. So many people feel that they are bad, that there's something wrong with them, that they're not good enough. I feel like almost every human I know could really do with the healing on releasing the karma of negative self-image. So if there's something, when you sit with yourself, if there's something about yourself that you feel inadequate about, that you feel like you're always carrying forward, you think you're the stupid one or the ugly one, right? So this is some sort of blot literally on your soul where you're carrying the karma of negative self-image. And it doesn't really even matter where you got this imprint from. It could be a belief that you picked up from childhood. I remember years ago, I had a client and she had a sister. Well, in her mind, she was the smart one and her sister was the pretty one. So she had this negative self-image that she wasn't beautiful, but truly each and every human is beautiful in your own unique way. You're already a VIP. And what I mean by that is that your energy is unique to you and your vibration is unique to you. So just like you have a fingerprint, which is unique to you, your vibration is unique to you. And if you are alive and you're listening to me today, that means that at some level, the world needs your unique energy. And even if you don't understand what your soul purpose is, why you were born, if you're here, the world needs your unique energy. And one karma that you can do and release is this pattern of negative self-image. Now, another karmic pattern is to release negative interference. So what is negative interference? This could be entities, and in my healing room, I have a long list of entities. I don't generally like to talk about negative spiritual energy because again, when you're just in karma, whatever we put out is what comes back to us. So I prefer to live in the light. I prefer to work with the light. I call in the light when I do my work. But at the same time, I'm fully aware that many people are struggling with negative interference. And this is all kinds, and I'm not going to go into it, but all manner of negative spiritual energies that maybe have attached to you. And again, they could be attached to you personally. They could be, again, part of a family pattern. But you definitely want to release negative interference. Now, another kind of karma is heart scars. So many of us, I think they say, but the average person, by the time we're 30, could be pretty depressed when you think about everything that's happened to you by the age of 30. And then by the age of 60, you could be permanently depressed when you think about all the losses and the hurts and the discomfort that we go through, both physically, mentally, emotionally, as human beings. So a heart scar is a scar that has hurt you, not even just at the emotional level, but that goes all the way to the level of the soul. And in Western culture, heart disease is one of the #1 killers. So all manner of cardiovascular illness. A lot of that, of course, is due to inactivity and terrible diet, But some of that is actually mentally, emotionally, spiritual hurts. And there's even a kind of heart attack, a Taksubo heart attack that especially affects women, which is related to emotional stress. So another kind of karma that you can heal is heart scars. So maybe you broke up with someone, you had a divorce, you broke up with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or you lost a friend, or someone that you treasure passed away. So that could have literally caused you heart scars that affect you all the way down to the soul level. Now, another karmic healing is to bring your energy into the present. So there's different words of this in natural healing. One of the terms of this is parallel universe integration. So what happens to some individuals is that your soul is existing in one or more lifetimes at the same time. So let's say you're existing in 2024 and your soul is also existing back in the 12th century when you lived in a time of famine. And so your soul is running one or more lifetimes at the same time. And so if that is the case, you want to do a karmic healing to bring your energy fully into the present. Okay. Now that's parallel universe integration is a pretty dramatic example. On a more practical level, one of the things that I can look at is what percent of your energy is in the present. Okay. So if you think about happiness, and most of us want to be happy, I know I want to be happy, but some of us, our energy can be tied up in the past. So when your energy is tied up in the past, the medical intuitive healer Carolyn Mays talks about, like, this is like all your money being tied up in old debts. All right. So let's say I broke up with my boyfriend and, a couple of years ago, and my energy's still tied up into that time that I spent with him, and that my energy being tied up in the past, or I have clients, their son passed away. So they lost a son through a tragic event, and their energy is completely tied up into their time as a mother with that person. And that's keeping their energy from being fully in the present. So your energy can be stuck in the past, and you're stuck in regret and tragedy, or your energy can be stuck in the future. I'm worried about having enough money when I'm 95, right? Or I'm worried about, what could happen with climate change. So your energy can be stuck in the past or the future. So as a medical intuitive healer, I can dial in and see what percent of your energy is in the present. And if you're not mostly in the present, then we can do a karmic healing to pull your energy and bring your energy into the present now, where you can experience happiness. Now, addictions are a major karmic pattern. And again, I gave the example earlier of someone who had been clean from alcoholism for 7 years. But many addictions are big family patterns, right? And there's drug addictions, there's alcohol addictions. And by drug addictions, this could be legal and illegal drugs. You could be food disorder, eating disorders are a kind of addiction, right? Rageaholic, addiction to anger is definitely addiction. So there's all manner of addictions, okay? And some addictions are really bad for you, like drug addictions and alcoholism can absolutely kill you. Other addictions are more soft addictions, spending too much time on social media, online shopping, collecting shoes. One of my clients told me, she said, I've got over 1,000 purses. It's like, wow, okay. So we can have all manner of addictions. And if you have a pattern of addiction, you absolutely have karma and it's tied up with you at the soul level. So you have to look at, again, what's happening on the mental level, what's happening on the DNA level. Is there any kind of karmic contract that's keeping me in this addictive pattern? And has this pattern of addiction been going on from my core soul all the way through many, many lifetimes? And with that, let's take a break and listen to another message from one of our commercial sponsors here at UK Health Radio. I'm your host, Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me at catherinecarrigan.com and eliminatedenergynow.com. We'll be right back to learn more about understanding karma. Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, here today to talk to you about understanding karma. Now, I just spoke with you a moment ago about the karma of addictions. Along with the karma of addictions is the karma of codependency. Now, here at the Natural Healing Show for UK Health Radio, I have the great privilege of interviewing experts in natural healing from all over the world. And I've done a number of great interviews with people who are interventionists and experts at dealing with all kinds of addictions. And I remember one gentleman I interviewed, he said, behind every addict is an even sicker enabler, which is just really tragic. But again, if you're suffering from addictions, then there may be people around you, or you may be the enabler yourself. So another major pattern of karma to release is the pattern of codependency. And so if you're interested, in that subject, I strongly recommend that you go back and look through our previous broadcast to hear about addictions and codependency. Now, another major pattern, karmic pattern, is the pattern of emotional starvation. Now, this is a very interesting karma to look at because many people are very highly responsible. And so the word responsible means able to respond. So you may be a hardworking person and you're providing for your family and you're taking care of your children and you're taking care of everybody else, but you're not nurturing yourself. So you are a soul. Your soul needs nurturing, just like your body needs exercise and good food and fresh air and sunlight. Your soul also needs nurturing, and you need to take care of yourself emotionally. So emotional starvation is a major pattern to clear, a major karmic pattern to clear. So if you're emotionally starving, what that looks like is your relationship with yourself is aloof. You decide that everybody else is important, you're not important, or you're so far down the list that everyone else's needs and wants get put way ahead of you. And then what may happen is you get so fed up and frustrated and angry and depressed, and you just explode because you are suffering from this pattern of emotional starvation, and you need to learn how to nurture yourself at all levels. Now, we talked at the beginning about the karma of negative self-image, feeling inadequate, okay? Again, feeling not good enough, right? And it's understandable that sometimes in life you may feel like you're not up for the task, but if God has put something in your life, then there's something about you that is adequate, that is up to the task. And even if you, by doing that challenging activity, you realize your own strength, But another major karma to clear is feeling inadequate and also I can't thinking. Now, another major karma to clear is negative cords and hooks. So sometimes we may become entangled with narcissists, sociopaths, or psychopaths. And we've definitely done interviews here at the Natural Healing Show about how to recover from relationships with narcissists and what narcissists are and why they choose empaths as their chosen victims. But sometimes manipulative people in this or other lifetimes may have hooked you, right? It's like, I'm going to make you be my servant. I'm going to make you sacrifice your life for me. And so you can have the karma of negative cords and hooks, especially when you have found yourself in a manipulative situation where you've been manipulated by others. Now, another major karmic healing to do is to heal and integrate all lost soul fragments. So when I'm doing this healing, the way I like to explain this is I have a car. At the present, my car is about 5.5 years old, right? And I can remember one time my car was parked and I looked and I was like, I lost a hubcap, right? Well, I didn't even remember when or how I lost a hubcap, right? Who knows whether somebody stole it or it fell off driving down the interstate. And sometimes what happens to us is that in order to survive, or there's times when we're so stressed, there's other priorities, we lose or set aside major parts of ourselves. So an example of this from my own life was that I published my first book, which was called Healing Depression, in 1997. And then I think I went through maybe a 16 or 18 year period, I can't remember how long it was, when I didn't write another book, okay? And it was actually quite painful for me because I always felt like one of my sole purposes in this lifetime was to write books. And thank God I've now published 10 books, with my most recent being Reading the Soul. But anyway, I went through this period where I lost my author self, right? And maybe you know deep inside of you that you are a creator, that you're a painter or a singer, or you are a sculptor or an artist of any kind, but for whatever reason, you can't call on your inner artist. Well, perhaps you've lost the soul fragment that was your inner artist, and that he or she had to go away so that you could be a mom or put food on the table, but for your family. But again, sometimes through life, we lose major aspects of ourselves, and you can do a karmic release and a karmic healing to heal and fully return all soul fragments. And in natural healing, there's many different traditions. In the shamanic tradition, they refer to this as a soul retrieval. It's the same general idea where you call back and your inner power, and you call back major aspects of your personality. Now, another interesting karmic healing is to release your need for a particular person to feel whole. So perhaps you broke up with a boyfriend or girlfriend, or you went through a divorce, or you had a loss, like maybe someone really important passed away and died and they're no longer in your life, and you literally feel a hole in your soul, right? You don't feel complete in and of yourself because you've lost that individual in your life. Well, you can do a karmic release and then a karmic healing to release your need for a particular person to feel whole. And we have to remember that in the universe, there is no such thing as a vacuum in the universe. It doesn't actually exist. And so sometimes when we lose someone really important to us, it could even be a pet. I remember when I lost my dear rescue dog, Bell, I cried for a week. And even when I did a plant medicine ceremony, she showed up in the plant medicine ceremony because she had, at the soul level, she was still with me. But I had this huge ache in my heart because I missed her so terribly much. So you can do a karmic release to release your need for a particular person or individual in order to feel whole. And often with that sort of healing, we have to look at what else it is that you need to replace that, right? So what else you can do, be, or have so that you can feel whole again. And just like you can release a need for a particular person to feel whole, sometimes there's a material object that you need in order to feel whole. So for example, I've had clients where they had a family farm, and through various reasons and various circumstances, they lost the family farm, and they'd gone there their whole life, and it was part of their identity, part of what brought them joy, and it isn't there anymore. So in life, we go through a series of losses, right? And you know, part of being a successful human being is developing the quality of inner resilience so that we can bounce back from all manner of losses. And you have to realize that there are spiritual beings who are on your side and you can call on so that you can release the need for particular objects, again, whether it's a piece of property or a person. You can also have the karma of a pattern of negative excess. So we talked about addictions, and many people are not technically alcoholics, or they don't technically have an eating disorder, but they have a pattern of eating too much or drinking too much or spending too much. So you can call on the Lords of Karma to ask for help to heal the pattern of negative excess. And so the final karmic pattern that I want to talk about is the karma of abuse. Now, if you're listening to this broadcast and you've been abused in any manner, whether this is physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental or emotional abuse, or verbal abuse, realize that that you actually need help. And but part of the healing from getting over this abuse is to do a karmic healing to release this pattern. So I'll give an example from my own work. So I remember years ago, I worked with a client, and her father had abused her and her brothers and sisters. And what would happen was that she would quite literally step between her father and her other brothers and sisters to act as a shield so that the other kids in the family didn't get hurt as much. And then when we looked at this from the karmic pattern, she absolutely had a karmic contract with her father, and what she was supposed to get out of that karmic contract. So just like any type of contract, like I'm going to buy this piece of land from you, I'm going to get the land, you're going to get my money. So when you have a karmic contract, there's always some soul benefit if it's to your benefit. And the benefit for her, when we looked at this karmic contract, was that she was actually supposed to learn strength, right? And she was supposed to realize her own inner strength, that she was so strong at a soul level that she could actually step between her father, her abusive father, and her brothers and sisters, and she could take it because she could recover from it. So if you've been abused, part of the pattern is to look at the abuse. And again, unfortunately, because we know that karma is energy coming back to you that you put out. If you're suffering from abuse, perhaps in this or other lifetimes, you've abused others. So if you're suffering from abuse, you absolutely want to heal that karma so that you don't abuse others. You don't pass it on to your children or to anyone else in your family. So again, that you can be a source of love and light to others. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Catherine Carrigan, medical intuitive healer, Amazon #1 bestselling author. You can find out more about me and my work at catherinecarrigan.com and unlimitedenergynow.com. While you're there, definitely sign up for my newsletter, and so that you can learn even more about how you can heal yourself naturally. And remember to have compassion for yourself and also to have compassion for others, because we never really know what karma other people are working out in their lifetime. So I always say that when you look at other people, it could look like a train wreck, okay? But at the soul level, they're very strong souls and they're working through a lot of karma. And that may be true of others and it may be true of you. But know that whatever karma you may be experiencing in this lifetime, that you can heal that naturally. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.